Have a motion from Commissioner Fouché. Do I have a second? Have a second from Commissioner Otto. I think he nosed you out there. Any discussion of those, any adjustments? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. The agenda is adopted and the floor is open for public comments. Time I used to say, don't everybody jump up at once. Come on. Be sure and get that thing right there where you're about to have an ice cream cone and you can lick it just about.
Good evening. Can you hear me now? My name is Jim Gibbs, and I'm the president of the Mount Mitchell Bear Hunting Club and the Mill Creek Wildlife Club. And we're the owners of approximately 1,300 acres of land in McDowell County, including most of the old Mount Mitchell Toll Road, which extends from Sourwood Gap above Montreat to the Yancey County line at the Blue Ridge Parkway. I've addressed this body twice this year concerning the bear dog problem in Montreat. I've met with the Town of Montreat Stakeholders Committee, as well as talking twice with Commissioner Mason Blake. In addition, I have met separately with Mr. Tanner Pickett, representing the Mountain Retreat Association, and Montreat's Chief of Police, Mr. David Arendt, to address our club's concerns and possible solutions to the perceived problem. It is my belief that Montreat does not have a bear dog problem. Rather, Montreat has a bear problem. Our club has been bear hunting here for almost 80 years, and we have never had a problem with the community when our dogs wandered into Montreat. Last year was the first time I am aware of a problem occurring with bear dogs causing a problem within residential neighborhoods of Montreat. These were not our club's dogs, but rather belonged to another group illegally hunting in the area. These instances represented a perfect storm of events which had previously never occurred. According to Chief Arendt, the Montreat Police Department at the time of the problem was short-staffed, with 2 of their officers out with COVID-19. This contributed to there not being an officer present when the dogs chased a bear into residential neighborhoods of the town. In my opinion, the sensationalism of this incident and the reactions it generated in the community brought the bear problem to everyone's attention. Personally, I do not see this as being a continued or ongoing problem. All the parties involved are now well aware that there is to be no hunting allowed in Montreat and that the letting out of dogs in Montreat will not be tolerated. Ultimately, some bear dogs will cross from game lands into Montreat. Hunters, not just from our club, but from all clubs, need a mechanism and a procedure to legally and peacefully retrieve their dogs without disturbing the residents of Montreat. The Mount Mitchell Bear Hunting Club has taken steps to help with this problem. We are planning on hunting farther away from Sourwood Gap and Montreat and hopefully catching our dogs prior to their entering into the town. Also, we have printed decals which identify our club and show who we are. And this is what our decals look like. These decals will be displayed on all of our vehicles, so the residents of Montreat will know who we are when we retrieve our dogs. We have agreed to register our club with the police department and to contact the police department prior to coming into Montreat to retrieve our dogs. I would recommend that all clubs or parties hunting in the area do the same in order to minimize future problems. As currently written, the proposed ordinance and the associated fines place an undue threat and potential damage to the continued operation of our club as we have operated in the past, and as a result, potentially have a negative impact on the relations between our club and the citizens of Montreat. I believe the ordinance is an overreach and will place hardship not only on our club, but on other area clubs the citizens of Montreat, and also the Montreat Police Department. The 2022 bear season will open this coming Monday. I recommend that the town council not vote on this ordinance today, but rather delay this action in order to take some time to see if there really is an ongoing problem during the upcoming hunting season. As Captain Andrew Helton, wildlife officer with the North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission, stated in an earlier town council meeting, the bear population in Western North Carolina is increasing by over 6% a year. And there are now more bear in the Asheville watershed than in the entire Great Smoky Mountains National Park. He indicated that the bear population is becoming more urbanized due to the availability of food in these residential areas. He also stated that the best way to control the bear population is by the lawful hunting and harvesting of bears by sportsmen. We have been good neighbors with Montreat and its citizens for generations and look forward to continuing this relationship for generations to come. Let's work together to continue this relationship. I believe the bear hunting community will stand with Montreat to keep bear dogs from being a problem. The hunting community now well knows there is no hunting in Montreat and that dogs are not allowed to be turned out in Montreat. However, there needs to be an orderly and coordinated procedure between hunters, the town, and the police department to retrieve dogs with the least amount of disturbance to the community. Rather than fines, I believe mutual respect, understanding, and cooperation to be the solution. In addition, the public needs to be educated to the fact that the feeding of bears only increases their numbers in residential areas, diminishes their fear of humans, and also increases their dependence on people for food. This includes leaving food out for bears, open bird feeders, and trash containers which are not bear-proof. It may be cute to feed bears and have them around your home, but feeding them only exacerbates the problem, making them comfortable coming into residential neighborhoods and reduces their fear of humans. There is nothing more dangerous than a sow or female bear with her cubs. According to an article in the most recent Wildlife in North Carolina magazine from September and October 2022 entitled Habitat Instead of Handouts, Why Feeding Wildlife is Unsustainable and Fosters Unhealthy Populations, quote, feeding can lead to direct conflict between people and wildlife. Wild animals that are used to being fed by humans commonly lose their fear of people. These animals may learn to approach people for food and are sometimes mistaken as rabid or aggressive, then killed for that behavior. Sometimes they do become aggressive and must be euthanized in the interest of human safety. This is unfortunate, though the instructive origin of the saying, a fed bear is a dead bear. As I previously stated, I do not believe Montreat has a bear dog problem. I believe it has a bear problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Gibbs. Appreciate you coming before the commissioners. Any comments from any of the commissioners? Okay.
I'll reserve comments when we talk about the ordinances and
Okay. Anyone else? Floor is open. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Aaron. Forgot it?
Right up close.
Good.
Yep, just like that.
Good. I'm Arrington Cox, and I am chairman of the Bear Wise Committee for the Land Care Committee of the Town Council. And Montreat is in the process of becoming a Bear Wise community. And we're stressing, don't feed them, don't leave your trash out. We know the dangers. We know what we're facing. Everybody in the community has got to work together to make this happen. Now, as far as the dogs, the hunting, I wonder if the bear hunters have any mechanism for calling their dogs back. They know where they are. They have a GPS collar. Do they have a mechanism, a whistle, whatever, a horn blow to call those dogs back? They know they're going into Montreat town. The bear doesn't know where he's going. Hunters do, the dogs do. And I would like to propose that the bear hunters look into getting a system of calling these dogs back. A whistle would be effective, but they need to be trained to do that. Pull them off the scent and problem solved. I hope. Thank you.
I would suggest that you, when we break this meeting up, you and Mr. Gibbs have a conversation about how they call their dogs back and so forth, since he knows a heck of a lot more than I do. Well, we don't need an answer. She does. Anyone else? Anyone else at all? No one jumping up? Tom?
Jim, I want to thank you for your comments tonight. And much of what you said, I agree with. A couple of points that I would like to make in regard to your comments. One, you spoke of an incident and the sensationalism of that incident. Jim, we had 5 documented incidents that happened in that last week between Christmas and the 1st of January. And I would hardly call a bear and dogs running through the playground sensational. I would hardly call dogs and bears running through a front yard with 4 children, 2 of them right out in front, sensationalism. And we've talked ourselves before, and unfortunately, it is probably those rogue hunters that you reference and that we've labeled as that. Our problem is that we trust you all, but we can't put a rule in place only for the rogue hunters. And we've heard recently through the grapevine, and Chief Aaron has heard directly that some of them are, quote, throwing the gauntlet down. They're going to test us. So we're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. So I agree. We need to be partners, and we're looking forward to that partnership. And next Monday, we're going to show everybody that that sticker and say, this is our partner. They know what they're doing. They know what they have to do. But we just have to do something.
Mayor, can I just also add, and Jim, look, we understand we don't have a Mount Mitchell hunting club bear hunter problem, but we have a bear hunter problem, and bear hunters releasing their dogs, hunting bears in Montreat, riding around Montreat in vehicles, waiting with their dogs in cages, waiting for the dogs to catch the scent of a bear in Montreat. Then they let the first dog loose out of their cage in Montreat. The first dog continues, tries to follow the bear, moves up around. They tries to move the bear. Bear starts running. They let another dog out. They're hunting in Montreat. That's a problem. It's not one instance, as Tom pointed out. It's a number of instances. The people I personally know and have talked with confirmed with me, and we want to be your partner. We're going to try to be your partner, and we hope you'll just work with us, and we will do our best to, as I've told you over the phone, we want everybody in your club to get their limit every year. And we also know we're part of the problem, as Arrington said, and we're working on it and pledge to do that.
Anyone else? Any other commissioner? Does anyone else have anything to bring before the commissioners? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn until 7 o'clock.
I move that we adjourn.
I have a motion from Commissioner Alexander. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Commissioner Blake. Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We stand adjourned until I call the meeting to order at 7 o'clock. Thank you.
I can see her.
Pam, 3 minutes.
Would you like a glass of water since you were talking about water? Well, there's actually so far away.
Commissioners, I've got 1 minute until we start the meeting. So if y'all want to come on back in. Folks, we have 7 o'clock. If everyone would stand and face the flag, and let's say together the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just stand and pledge. Hands on. Amen.
Commissioners, you have before you the agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Mr. Mayor,
Do I? I thought he's already added it.
Mr. Mayor, I would
Oh, okay.
request that the
Ben,
commissioners consider amending the ordinance, the agenda to add closed session in reference to North Carolina General Statute 143 318.11 parentheses A parentheses 6 regarding personnel.
Commissioners, you have a suggestion from our interim town manager to add to the agenda session at the end of our meeting. With that change, I have a motion to adopt the agenda amended. I have a motion from Mayor Pro Tem Whitmer. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Mayor Alexander. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes carry. Okay, my comment tonight, I don't have anything other than just say welcome and hope everybody's enjoying the leaves and all the people that come with the leaves. And this is sort of the last hurrah before the winter season sets in and we don't have quite as many people around as we do right now. By approving by adopting the agenda, we approved the consent agenda, which entails the September 8th Town Council Public Forum, the September 8th Town Council Meeting Minutes, and the September 28th Special Meeting Minutes. Ben, do you have anything to say tonight?
I have nothing to add in that regard. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Commissioners, you have the administrative reports for the administrative department, planning and zoning, police, public works and water, sanitation and streets. Any questions and or comments on any of those reports?
Mr. Mayor, I would like to just ask Ben a couple of questions. Number one, could you give us an update on the lawsuit against us regarding the hotel?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me? At this point in time, it's in a standstill. It's in the Buncombe County Superior Court. No action has been taken as in a determination regarding the appeal. An order has been presented to the court in regard to financial contributions and with the parties. And that is the only update that I have at this time.
So no date has been set or
No, sir.
anything else?
No, sir.
Gotcha.
Has not been calendared at this point.
Okay. Regarding, there was no financial report in this packet. Is that because we are without a financial officer?
That's it. That's correct. And I would add, I was going to make this at the latter part, that myself and a member of the town's audit committee will be meeting with one of the finalist candidates for the finance director on Tuesday evening. And so hopefully we may have a finance director within the next couple of weeks, if not sooner.
Gotcha. And the last question I have for planning and zoning for Kayla or you, are we still on track for the stormwater plan submission by the end of October?
I believe so. Talking with Ms. Roderick with the Land of Sky, I think we are. Yes, sir. And I would also add that I've spoken with their auditing firm, Carter PE. And I received an email this afternoon that they are on target for the October 31st. And just a few questions they have regarding the demographics that should be easily attainable. And currently the financial statements are going through their final review with Livonia this time. So keeping our fingers crossed and hoping things go on the path that it's been for the last several months. We'll meet that targeted October 31st. I'd like to just say thanks, Ben, to you and your staff, because I know with Darlene leaving, it's been an extra burden on top of everything else to keep getting the financial reports in on time as required, and we're very grateful. Thank you. All that thanks goes to Angie and Debbie, Miss Debbie Taylor.
I've got a comment or quick question for you, Mr. Barry Chrisman. Now that we got the summer behind us, and by the way, I think y'all did a wonderful job with the trash. I know y'all had a lot of super long Mondays, but how are things looking right now? We back to normal? We still picking up more trash than normal? Where are we in that world?
We have seen a slight drop. Instead of working till 7:30 and 8 o'clock, Drew's finishing up real close to 5:30 now. So we've seen a slight drop in it. And,
But not below, or, so
us-
we're above average for
oh
October.
yeah, usually,
Okay.
it used to be 2 or 2:30 this time
Okay.
of year for Bill to finish up. It's just, it's still got that increase.
Increase due to your professional opinion, more people living here permanently?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We have more residents that staying, and that's what's caused our slight tick in usage, and people are using, this over here quite a bit too.
Okay.
And I think that's actually helped cut Drew's time on Mondays also, as people are, that may have the 10 or 12 bags in the can. We've noticed an increase here and a decrease in that out in the field.
Okay.
So it's actually working pretty well. I've only seen, two. I think it's two that I can count that's actually, not supposed to have been dumping over there. Or it put something in. One was not supposed to and the other put something in that wasn't supposed to. But it's been working great.
Thanks, Barry.
Thank you, Barry.
Any other questions? Hearing none, we'll move on. Next item on the agenda is item 8, and that's floor is open for any public comment. Yes, ma'am, Cal.
Good evening, commissioners. I spoke with Commissioner Blake just before the meeting opened. I have copies of the offer of acceptance I'd like to pass out to the board. This is in reference to the Harmony Lane lot
Okay,
discussion.
please.
Apologies for this.
Thank you, Cal. Anyone else? No one come forward. We now move on to old business, which we don't have any of. New business, we do. Item A, under new business, is consideration of revision and addition of ordinance related to bear hunting dog incidents. Mason? We'll take that.
So, had the first reading of a number of ordinances with respect to the bear dog situation and also a bear feeding situation. Approved 5, I believe, ordinances in our August meeting. We did not approve them by 2/3 or more. I believe it was 3 votes in favor, so that we have a second reading for final approval of those ordinances. Since that time, we've spent a good deal, I've spent, and Tom, and spent a good deal of time speaking with other commissioners, trying to make the ordinances as friendly as possible, looking at them to make them the best we can make them. And fortunately, through that process, I think we've done that. We've greatly improved the ordinances. And I've circulated, and everyone here has revised drafts of 4 of those 5 ordinances. One of those ordinances, which was an ordinance requiring hunters to notify the Montreat police if they were following their dogs into Montreat to retrieve them. We're no longer asking for the second vote of approval of that, so we're withdrawing that, our support of that. And we'd like the commission to vote on the 4 of the original 5, plus a new 5th ordinance. The new 5th ordinance deals with trash collection, which we just talked about a second ago. I'd like to, Mayor, vote on those one at a time, but I'll go ahead and review them. here, as a group, and ask that if anybody's got any questions, we can address it, before we, either now or before we vote on the particular ordinance. The first ordinance I'd like for us to consider is an ordinance, to ban, to prohibit anybody releasing dogs in the town of Montreat from their vehicles, bear hunting dogs. This is going to be a difficult ordinance to catch somebody doing, because people are not gonna, it'll be difficult to actually see them and document them letting bear hunting dogs loose from their vehicles. But that's in fact what was happening. What we had happening in Montreat were folks knowing that we had numerous bears in our residential neighborhoods. We had bear hunters driving with dogs in their trucks around our residential neighborhoods. When the dogs in the back would get the scent of a bear, they would start to make noise, and these urban hunters would let the first dog loose. First dog loose would then start to work the bear and move the bear towards an area in which begin to move the bear towards an area at which the hunters felt like they could kill the bear. They would in the process allow other dogs loose from their vehicles to continue to chase the bears. As I mentioned earlier, I had several Montreat citizens who I have absolute trust in some cases go to church, and two I go to church with, saw it with their own eyes and told me about it. So this specifically addresses that. It'll be hard to catch somebody, find them guilty of it, but if we do, it's got a very stiff fine. The second ordinance that I'd like us, and there've been no changes, essentially no real changes to this ordinance from the original ordinance, form of the ordinance that we passed in August. The second ordinance that we'd like to consider is an ordinance which was suggested by the head of the wildlife agency as an ordinance we take a look at. I forget his name right this second, but it's a trespass ordinance, and it's modeled to a large degree after the North Carolina Landowners Protection Act. And what it does is it makes it illegal to go on somebody else's property. That shouldn't be a surprise, to retrieve hunting dogs without permission. Now, we've worked with and had numerous conversations with Mr. Gibbs and commissioners to try to make this as friendly for the Mount Mitchell Bear Hunting Club as possible. And in fact, to encourage them to communicate with our police as they want to do. And as I said in my earlier remarks, none of this is directed at the Mount Mitchell Bear Hunting Club or their hunters, who were not the cause of this problem. But nevertheless, they're bear hunters, and we can't just say, well, these laws will apply to everybody but them. We can't do that. But what this does is we made a number of significant revisions. We've provided that permission can not only be, initially it was required written permission. Now it's verbal permission is included, so that we've also made it clear that a hunter can go up to the property owner's door and try to and ask for permission. That's not a trespass. We've also provided that if the Montreat police are present, so assuming as the Montreat bear hunters establish a cooperative relationship with the Montreat police, notify the Montreat police when they feel like they may have a situation where their dogs are getting into a residential neighborhood. And the police are there and present on the scene. And the police, if obviously they're going to check with the owner if the owner is there, but if the owner's not there, or if the owner doesn't have any objection, they're going to, then the hunters can go ahead onto the property and retrieve their dogs with the police present and not objecting, and the homeowner not objecting. So we believe we've made this as we believe we've made this, improved this ordinance substantially with those three major changes. And I think, it will, be an important addition to the ordinances we have to deal with the situation. The third ordinance that we'd like to consider is an ordinance, which is an old ordinance, actually. It started on August 26, 1901. On August 26, 1901, the Mountain Retreat Association adopted ordinances for the town of Montreat. And those ordinances included section 24, which prohibited fierce or dangerous dogs to be permitted to run at large. Same words we have today, at large, within the town of Montreat. Now, they had different penalties. In 1901, the dog was shot. Now we do things differently. Recently, we've done really the opposite. We've said, hey, if your dog's at large, you get a verbal warning. If your dog's at large, the second time you get a written warning. It's not till the third time your dog's at large that you possibly get a fine. And by the way, a year after your first warning, it's a reset. So nobody's ever been charged for, that I'm aware of, or heard of, for their dog being at large. And that's fine. Except now we've got a different situation. We have literally packs of hunting dogs chasing bears through our residential neighborhoods. That's just a fact. And we've got to have a situation where our dog control ordinance gives us penalties so that we can penalize those people that break those ordinances. The initial version of this, which was passed in August, was drafted very narrowly. No penalties have changed for just one dog involved. So any of our residents, if they're just walking their dog and their dog gets loose and it's off the chain, they still get a verbal warning. There's no problem there. There's no problem if somebody wants to take their dogs up to Rainbow Trail in an unpopulated area. And if you've got a couple of dogs and you want to break the law and let them off your leash, their leash, they can run. Unless, Tanner, you want to start enforcing, we talked, I told you, Tanner, I put the hammer on him, but Tanner says, no, let him run up there. So there, you can run your two dogs loose and you'll still get a verbal warning. We didn't change the existing situation at all for any of that. We only changed the situation and we changed the penalties if you've got multiple dogs loose in our residential neighborhoods. And that's what this ordinance does. Now, we get a few stylistic changes, but we have changed this ordinance as well from the version that was passed in August. What we've done is we've eliminated the criminal third degree misdemeanor aspect of this ordinance. So that's no longer there. And what it is basically is simply a civil penalty. It's just like you get a traffic ticket. You're issued a citation, you've got to pay it. And I know, and I understand, the members of the Mount Mitchell Bear Hunting Club still don't like the idea of having, if their dogs get down here and multiple dogs get in a neighborhood, they don't want it to happen or mean it to happen, they're going to get a ticket. But by accident, I've gone, 27, 28 miles an hour, 20 mile an hour speed limit in Montreat, and I got a ticket. And it's okay. It's okay. But because I got a ticket, I'm a lot more careful. And it doesn't bother me if the folks at the Mount Mitchell Bear Hunting Club are a little concerned about this, because I'll know they'll be concerned about making sure their dogs don't come down here and run in our residential neighborhood. And I'm sorry if they get tickets, but that's what happens when you create dangerous situations. That's why we have these rules. And I don't believe we can take a position where we do nothing and have nothing we can do when to have a recreation of situation where we've got our children and our playgrounds and our citizens put in a very, very dangerous situation. And if we don't have these penalties, then there is literally nothing we can do. All we can do, if the same people come down here next week, October the 18th, and start turning dogs loose in Montreat, all we can do is give them a verbal warning. I don't want to tell the people of Montreat that we did absolutely nothing, knowing that might be coming, and that all we can do is give them a verbal warning. I don't want Chief Aaron to basically have to go up to a situation where dogs are loose chasing a bear in somebody's lot and saying, there's nothing I can do. That's all he can do now. So unfortunately, I believe I don't like it. And I don't like, we sure don't want to upset the Mount Mitchell Bear Hunting Club. As I said, we want them to get their limit of bear every single year, every single person. But we've got to have some penalties for people who break our laws and bring multiple hunting dogs into Montreat. The fourth ordinance that we approved in April that we made some changes to was the bear feeding ordinance. And we did make some significant, I can look at my notes, there, Jane. My memory is going south on me, but we simplified it some. There was some specific performance remedy that we really don't need because we'll just simply fine people. But we've left the criminal penalty in there. It's a misdemeanor. If you feed bears in the town of Montreat, it's a serious matter. It's not just a civil penalty, although you'll get a civil penalty and can get, but it's a serious matter. As Mr. Gibbs pointed out and recited the words of others, it's not good for the bears. It's not good for the people, but it's certainly bad for the bears. We're not doing them any favor by feeding them. And all we're doing is creating a situation that puts the rest of our population at risk. Finally, we have one new ordinance that will take, unless we have a 2/3 majority, another reading, but we'd like to hear and vote on tonight are revisions to our solid waste disposal and collection ordinance. What we've done is again, this ordinance, there really were no effective penalties. The first violation was a warning, verbal warning. Second violation was a written warning. Third violation was a fine. Fourth violation was a fine. But then after 1 year, it resets again. The fact is we didn't have any effective enforcement. We've changed the penalties. We are now going to, at least for the time being, give people one written warning. But after that, they will start getting fines if they do not abide by the solid waste disposal and collection requirements, which are first, that you've got to put your garbage in either a trash can or a bear-proof container, period. You can't leave trash in plastic bags on the roads in Montreat. That's feeding the bears. That's feeding the crows too. Or actually the crows help the bears. They open the bags for them. So you just can't do it. That's feeding the bears. That's helping. That's what Jim Gibbs was talking about. We're creating our own problem here and we've got to do it. And that's what Arrington is working on with the Bearwise initiative. So we're going to put some teeth in our ordinances. So if you do that, or you put a trash can out, but you put it out the day before, that when it's picked up, that's feeding the bears too, because that's almost as easy as a plastic trash can is almost easy as a plastic bag for a bear to open if you give him any time in the evening. So those
Mason,
now period penalties.
Would you just explain who's responsible, particularly in the case of renters?
Yes. One thing we make clear is the owners of property in Montreat are responsible for their residences. If they've got renters, If they've got guests, it's their responsibility for their renters and their guests to know the rules and follow the rules. If they don't, we're going to be, and this is not a change. This is the current law. It's just there are no penalties that are effective. And now the penalties will be effective. The owner's responsible. The owner's going to get the bill. And the owner, if he doesn't pay the bill, will collect the bill from him. He'll see it on his water bill.
You can't ask questions. This is a formal meeting and you can't ask questions. That is done during the forum or in the public comment section, okay?
So, and we provide, again, there'll be a written warning for the first violation, $100 for the second, $250 for the third, $500 for the fourth. And we intend to work with city staff to enforce it. The last thing on the solid waste collection and disposal is that we've created a new section in the ordinance for the convenience center that we were just talking about a while ago. Right now, that convenience center, or up until now, the convenience center has been running very smoothly. We would like, this provision will, though, put in our ordinance something that says Montreat residents must abide by the posted rules and regulations that we put there for the convenience center. And it also says as an ordinance, there's a prohibition from anybody who's not a Montreat resident or Montreat visitor or guest of a resident to use that, and a $500 penalty if they violate that. So that if people from Black Mountain or Swannanoa come and illegally use our convenience center, we've got a fine to make them not come back and try that again. We've also got cameras out there now. Barry does that. It apparently is very reported, been effective in keeping people from abusing that.
Mason, can I add one more item? When we were working on this particular ordinance, we thought it was extremely important that if we're going to constrict things, we also have to give opportunities on things. So the convenience center, which has been there for years, has moved. It is open 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Right now, it requires the green or blue town bags to be used. We are lifting that requirement. That is not in the ordinance. It happens to be a policy. So anyone can use it. It will be particularly good for renters and homeowners that are part-timers leaving on a Sunday night. They can just drop by, throw their trash in, and we don't have to worry about bears.
Okay, I think.
Okay, Commissioner Blake, you suggested in the beginning that you either wanted to present it as a whole or in sections now. What's the commission want to do?
I'd rather do it in sections.
Okay, it'll take a motion for each section and a second for each section before they can be discussed or debated. That understood? So the floor is open.
I'll move the new ordinance prohibiting the release of hunting dogs in Montreat.
Which I've got 4 pages here, 4 sections. Which one are we working off of, Mason?
Well, we're looking at, well, let's just go from in the order we got it on the suggested ordinances.
Starting with Article 3.
Yeah,
Okay.
the first is revisions to Article 3 of Chapter 1 as it presented in the outline with the proposed new language underlined and deleted language crossed through.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second.
Okay, I need a little clarification. You lost me. Which one are we on?
This is the first one of the.
Okay, so summarize this one for me.
This is the dog control ordinance. This is where we do have where the written warning, verbal warning and written warning are eliminated for the first and second violation, where 2 or more dogs are involved in a populated area. And also in that case, the penalty is on a per dog basis. So that it's a greater penalty if there are more than 2 dogs, or if there are 3 dogs or 4 dogs or 5 dogs.
Okay. So we've got a motion and a second, so we have discussion.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm gonna jump on in and I'm gonna kind of cover, as you covered all of them, I'll just blanket this. So I'll start, and I'll say with true sincerity, you know, Commissioner Blake, I think you did a great job. Appreciate the hours, and certainly you can hear it in your voice, the passion that you have. And I think it's based off of the words you used a couple times, safety is one of your motivators. And I can get on board with you on that. When we talk about the safety, what's the best way for us to have a safe community? You know, I'm right there with you. I also want to acknowledge, I appreciate the Mount Mitchell Club for being here, and I appreciate the 80, I didn't know it was that long. I thought it was 60, but 80 years of a relationship that y'all provided for this, you know, within this community. Best in my 15 years up here, it's been a good relationship. So again, I think what I'm hoping for, commission or whatever, is that we can find a compromise. We can figure out something to start drawing this in a little bit. But, you know, I'll just, some notes I had jotted down was, you know, over the 15 years, and Commissioner Whitmer, you mentioned that there were 5 documented cases last year. I was unaware of that. I will just say that in my 15 years, I've known of 2 situations that I felt like got out of control. Not saying it's only twice that I've heard dogs come through, but even then I would say only, you know, in the years that I've lived here, that I've known dogs to come through 5 to 6 times over a 15-year period. And again, we're talking about roughly a 9-week period, if I'm not mistaken, on the hunting season, give or take a little bit. But again, as you state, one situation of dogs running through the park, chasing a bear, that's not a good situation. I go back to the fact that it appears, and it seems like it's been a general consensus, many times we've talked about it, it's 2 to 3 bad players, rogue hunters from a different club that are doing this. And, you know, I feel like it's reckless. I feel like it's cowardly on their part. I feel like to me, it says they're really not bear hunters. If they got to come, it's like shooting fish in a barrel. I mean, I'm surprised that they're that much of a coward. They've got to come into town to kill a bear. So that part, I'm with you. I'd love to sink some teeth into the rogue players. At this moment, though, I'm just worried about, in a sense, unintended consequences if we lock down some teeth. And Commissioner Blake, you and I spoke on this a little bit, but if we lock too many teeth down on this, I appreciate the fact that the club has shown up to discuss. I appreciate the fact that we've got stickers. I think that's going to help. I know we're going to introduce a camera, or that's my understanding, into traffic coming in and out of Montreat. I think that's going to be a positive. And, you know, I've been trying to do a little research and understanding. I'm not a bear hunter, but a little bit of what the pros and cons that y'all provide for this community. My understanding is that the Bear Club puts out 20 tons plus of food up on the ridge line over the course of a year. Don't hold me to the exact tonnage, but that's what I've heard. That being said, is if I understood it from talking with bear hunters, they're trying to pull the bears that way, not down this way. They're trying to pull them out of Montreat. And I think that's an effective thing. I think in some aspects, even though we don't love dogs running through our community, the fact that dogs do run through the community, again, I'm not suggesting we have that, but anytime the dogs are running, that's making the bears a little bit more skittish of this particular area. And the 15 years that I've been here, hands down more bears this year than I've seen adding all my 15 years. I know we've got a bear problem on Tennessee. We got a bear problem on Alabama. When I say a bear problem, I'm talking about I'm out with my dog. The bear comes, does not back away from me or my dog with 3 cubs, sits there and spends about 30, 45 minutes on Tennessee. Up on Alabama, I understand we've had a bear and cubs, 7 of them staying up on Graybeard. I understand South Carolina's got a situation almost on a daily occurrence. I've got a picture from this week of a lady walking down right across from Mr. Stillman's house. A 250-pound bear at 10 o'clock in the morning walks right up the greenway. So these things make me equally as nervous as the dog situation. I'm thinking we have a dog situation chasing a bear. I agree, not a good situation. But the bears that we're seeing on a daily occurrence, because of trash, because of more people here, I've got pictures of bear cans. They're peeling back like aluminum cans right now. So, you know, it's one of those where I'm like, I want to have some things. I want us to start moving forward. I'm not sure that I also want to poke the bear hunters indirectly in the fact that I'm like, we need them right now. And I'm trying to figure out what kind of compromise we can have to try to move this bear population out of Montreat. So that's where I have some hesitation as I look through, see if there was anything else on there. And I will say too, they, as unfortunately I've witnessed over in Laurel Ridge, if you're not poking the bears, not only they in your cans, now they're in your garages, then you're in your houses. Laurel Ridge, I understand, is a pretty tough place, you know, for the bears getting in the house. And I do know once the bear finds his way into an area, he keeps coming back. And so I'm like, how can we, you know, again, I'm with you on the safety aspect. So I share all that. I won't deliberate on every ordinance here, but as you went through, there's some I can get behind at this moment. Some I would like to see if we could give Mount Mitchell Bear Club a little bit of leniency because of the neighborly relationship we have with them. See if they cannot help us police this situation. And then come February, if we're sitting here talking the same thing, then I can help put some more teeth in it. So that's kind of my position at this moment.
Well, thanks, Commissioner. And let me just say, I certainly will, we'll be, after we live with these for a few months, we will sit and we will not stop talking with the Mount Mitchell Bear Hunting Club people, and if things are working out different than we think, we can always make those adjustments. But I believe starting with a bear hunting season starts next week. I think we need something in place for a baseline that allows us to do something when these people, and I get exactly what you're saying. We've got so many bears out there. I guess I understand why these yo-yos want to come back in. It's easy pickings. It's like you say, the ducks out of a barrel. But we got to have something we can do when they come back.
And with that, one last, I can get behind a few of these at this moment and start, but I cannot embrace all 5 and the fact, and I'll tell you which ones where we're penalizing, you know, potentially with these dogs running and the fines that could be levied on them. The fact that don't release in Montreat, I'm okay with that. You know, you better have your tag if you're driving to Montreat. I can get behind that. You know, no feeding the bears to the community. I can get behind that. Taking care of our trash, I can get behind those. It's the fines right now where I'm saying, I want this relationship to be open as much as we can have. And then, like I said, if we don't make headway and we're discussing this again in February, then, you know, I'm open to revisit the ones with a little bit more teeth. But I'll be the first for the record to say the 2 or 3 that are coming from different bear club, it really bugs me, but I hate to throw ordinance down because I know how tough it is to unwind an ordinance over the actions of 2 or 3 rogue, weak bear hunters.
Any other commissioner wish to make a comment?
I wish we'd started with the other ones first because I'm like Kent. The last three I totally support. I'm concerned with, and I agree with Mr. Gibbs that the fines, the violations without a warning is, 250 for the first dog and so forth. So that is a stiff penalty for a bear club and bear hunters that are trying to follow the rules. And seems like we're passing this for the very few that don't want to go by the rules. Is there any harm in passing the ordinances that we all agree on now and postponing one for a month even? Let bear season start to see if we have a problem.
I've made the motion. I'm not gonna withdraw the motion. I believe we have bear hunting season. I for the life, I just, we have a speed limit. You break the speed limit, you get a ticket. We say you can't bring dangerous dogs in Montreat, create dangerous situations in Montreat with dogs on the loose, and if you violate that, you get a ticket. I've gone 30 miles an hour and broken the speed limit and a 20-mile-an-hour or something, and I've gotten up $250, $300 penalty. I paid it, and I'm fearful. So I appreciate, and if it's not, and if it is somehow going to be a problem with the bear hunting club, maybe we can certainly, as I said, take a look at it. But the fact is, if they're not the problem, and if we've only had these problems with these hunters this past year, then this really shouldn't be an issue that's going to penalize them. If the only thing, if Kent's right, we've had no real problems for 15 years. The only thing that's happened is these rogue hunters came in here in January, and that's when this occurred. And those are the only people that are going to suffer. And so I see no reason why we should postpone.
And I think that's a great point, Commissioner Blake. My only thought there is I think we could talk to the Mount Mitchell Bear Hunting Club, have a gentleman's agreement, look them in the eye. My understanding are they're good gentlemen that are in that club. So I trust their word. What I don't trust is the fact that they can fully control their dogs when a bear gets running. And that's the part that on that rare occasion that bear does come over and they're trying to pull their dogs back, but possibly can't, that they potentially get socked. And like I said, I'm just, again, trying to massage this out just a little bit to see if we have a little bit of a wiggle room on both sides.
But to create wiggle room for them is to throw in the towel with the renegades, because then we've got nothing we can do to cure it. And I'm not willing to throw in the towel.
Have a motion, have a second. Further discussion. This is for article revisions to Article 3 of Chapter 1.
I'll just say that I think this is one of the most challenging issues that that this council has faced, at least in the 5 years that I've been on it. And I wish there was an easy answer, but there's not. And I hear what you're saying, Kent and Kitty. But friends, my responsibility, and I believe yours too, is to the residents of this town. That's who we are supporting. We love this, the relationship with the Bear Club, but we've got to protect the kids of our residents that are and guests that are in the playground, that that come here and visit. That's our responsibility to our own guests and residents.
Well, Commissioner, I mean, that's a good point, but to the same thing, you hear those dogs. There's no secret those dogs are coming on that Saturday or whatever day. You hear it for hours of those dogs coming through. So my thought first is educate the people that look out, we might have some bears. But what about the bears that are hanging out on Tennessee and the ones that are hanging out on Texas Road. Those are, to me, that's just as much of a safety concern. I'm thinking, what are we going to do? Because they're getting more and more comfortable. They're not passing through. They're coming down here, hanging out at the playground.
Asheville has 400 bears, resident bears in that town. They live in that town. They don't leave that town. We've got bears the same way. Are you suggesting that we allow shooting of bears within city limits?
I'm just saying that the bear hunters are helping that situation. And I would lean on their expertise to figure out ways to be pushing these bears out of the town versus seeing what I'm seeing when I walk up to a mother and her 3, and she walks at me. She makes no hesitation with me and a dog out there. I'm thinking, that's scary.
Well, I don't understand your logic, because what you're saying is push them out of here. The way that they push them out is to let their dogs go and get the bears out, and they shoot them up in the conservation area or beyond. So I don't understand your point.
Well, my
About
point is,
pushing
I
the
think
bears
bears
out of
find
here.
this a safe haven. And if we've got hunting going around, they're going to be thinning that population out. Then we have to educate our residents in the fact of, we've got to watch this trash situation. We've got to tighten up
Agreed.
things that we're doing a poor job on right now. So again, I think there's a lot of things we agree on. I don't mean this to be adversarial with, but I'm just thinking, right now, I'm looking for anything we can do. I don't want the dog running through town. Yet I do know running dogs kind of keep bears moving. These bears are in Montreat right now are not moving. They're just hanging out, not inviting the bear hunters to come down here and let the dogs out. Absolutely not. But I'm saying we got to thin this population out. I want these bear hunters to have the best season they've ever had, with everybody getting their limits. So that's more of the logic that I'm presenting there.
I want to clarify one thing. I think the difference, Mason, between your speeding ticket is that you have a choice about how fast you're going to go and whether you're going to get it.
Folks, if y'all will hold your conversations down out there, the debate's up here, okay?
But the bear hunters that are trying to abide by the law and trying to move their dogs up higher and, not come near Montreat are still going to have dogs run down here, and that seems to be out of their total control. So they're getting a very stiff fine when they're trying to follow the law.
I think that the fine, I would agree with you that it's to some degree out of their total control, but I believe the fines certainly will get to those that are doing it purposely, and some are. And that's the problem. Some are. 1, and 2, those that could accidentally get their dogs, it will make them more cautious in the way they, where they set their bait out, how they set their bait out, where they start the dogs out in the morning. It will affect the business.
For me, I was very happy with the decision that the Bear Club has made to start their hunting back a little bit further from Montreat. Is that what I understood? And I think that's a great thing. But unlike Kent, I don't think dogs in Montreat are going to make a difference, that those dogs are actually going to leave this area. They have sort of they've imprinted themselves. I think when we find that
Bears, you mean?
the bears, not the dogs, the bears. But I also feel like that we need to probably be looking at the bears that are here. And when they are a nuisance bear, we need to contact the right people to have those bears taken away. So, another thing with this ordinance that makes me for it, I think if we don't have the teeth in it that the fines give it, we're not really we'll do the other things, but I don't think it's going to stop people this season from coming in.
Every commissioner has spoken on the issue. Anyone have a new perspective? If not, I'll call the vote. All those in favor of the motion to adopt revisions to Article 3 of Chapter 1 in the ordinance. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
Kitty, would you?
I said aye.
So it's 4-1.
The second I vote, I move approval of the new ordinance for trespass with all the revisions, including the addition of verbal permission, the addition of there being no violation if the Montreat officers are present and do not object. So moved,
Okay, this is Article 6, Chapter 1, right?
right, as in the handout.
We have new ordinance for trespass. Have a motion from Commissioner Blake, have a second from Mayor Pro Tem Whitmer. Discussion. Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
4-1.
Move approval of new ordinance prohibiting the release of hunting dogs. That's a new article, Roman numeral 7 of chapter I. Article 7 being release of hunting dogs, and it being both a criminal and civil penalty for violation of the ordinance.
Have a motion from Commissioner Blake. Do we have a second? Second from Commissioner Boucher. Discussion. All those in favor of the release of hunting dogs ordinance signify by saying aye. Opposed? Number 4, ordinance prohibiting feeding of bears.
Yes, I'll move adoption of this new Article 5 of Chapter G, prohibiting the feeding of bears. And there were a few minor revisions, as I indicated from the prior version, but largely it's the same.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second from Commissioner Fouché. Motion was by Commissioner Blake. Discussion.
No, the next one is the new ordinance. This one, I'm sorry. Yeah, this is a new ordinance. I'm sorry. Yes, but it's the second reading. It is a new ordinance, second reading.
All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes carry.
Lastly, I move approval of the revisions to Chapter G, Article 2. This is the first reading of this ordinance, so it will require 2/3 vote in order to be effective without a second vote.
This is the solid waste
This
ordinance.
is the solid waste ordinance.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Blake. Do I have a second?
I second.
Have a second. Jane?
I have one comment. I really think this is probably one of the most needed part of the ordinance. But I think that what we're going to have to be responsible for making sure that the owners of, especially of rental properties, get some type of brochure or something that they can have in their cottages so that we can educate them to educate others.
That's a great point, and one that you had made earlier this week as well. Our plans after the town forum on Monday are to send each property owner a package, and in that package will be a cover letter. It will include all of the handouts from the meeting, and that cover letter will specifically speak to absentee property owners and explain specifically this particular ordinance.
Any further comments on that? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes carry. Don't you need a motion on the effective date? The very bottom.
We could make that
13th. 13th. Okay, everybody in agreement with that? It all goes into effect on the 13th day of October 2022.
I vote no.
Do what?
I vote no on that one.
Okay. All right,
I have one question,
Sure.
and that discussion about the garbage. Is there a list of approved receptacles? Because we say put your garbage can out that morning. There are garbage proof roller trash cans.
Yeah.
And then Barry says that they open up those cans, those barrels, just pop the top off. So
Well,
I'd like to
if-
see
if
people get
people would
real.
be smart enough to pull the hasp
Yeah,
down and
help
put
us
a
out there.
carabiner through it or something.
Just from what we've seen recently, the round 55-gallon cans, latched or not, they're opening them up. The green round ones, they're filling them up just like you do a tuna can. The plastic boxes that Kitty mentioned, they work very well. Even the Home Depot or Lowe's job boxes, they work very well, as long as they anchor them down. Because they'll tote them off, but they won't open. But that,
What about the wooden ones? I've seen them tear wooden.
they have been getting into the wooden ones, but I've noticed some of the wooden ones that people are putting up, they're actually putting the plastic bear-proof boxes or bear-proof cans, the roll-up cans inside that. So it's just probably more of a decorative way to hide the can.
Now, the round ones, even if they're locked,
Yes.
a lock doesn't matter.
I took some pictures this week of two of them that were side by side, and he either rolled it up and the other one he stomped it in. So I've got some pictures on my phone I can show you.
Mm.
So there's some big bears walking around. It's a surprise. They're stout.
I think Kitty's got a great idea. We ought to work on getting an approved list of receptacles that we include, circulate among our residents and work with Barry to put together. I think it's excellent.
And I can
Okay.
get with Drew and, we can get a list of what he sees. That works pretty good on.
Okay. Thanks, Barry. Thanks, Guy. Item B is consideration of appointing Margaret Maury Grambling to the Board of Adjustment to fill an unexpired regular position, which will expire on 9/30/2025. I have a motion. Have a motion from Kitty Fouché. Have a second from Mayor Pro Tem Whitmer. Discussion. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes carry. Item C, determination and discussion on access to lot off of Harmony Lane, PIN number 0710772202, and then it goes on and on to Gary Higgins on Harmony Lane. Kayla, you gonna do this one?
Yes, I am.
Thank you.
Okay, so before we begin, based on a discussion that I had with Commissioner Blake just before the meeting started, surrounding some concerns about the request before the board tonight, instead of proceeding with the full presentation, I'd like to receive some direction from the board. But to help with that, I'd like to give a background and discuss a path forward and the issue that Commissioner Blake brought up. Is that okay with everybody? Okay. All right. So the subject property that we're discussing tonight is, if you go to the next slide. Okay. So this is the subject property. It's east of Harmony Lane on the eastern side of Little Piney Branch. So the issue is that this lot does not have direct access to Harmony Lane. Could you go to the next slide, please? Okay. So in between the subject property, which is in Hatch Red, and Harmony Lane, which is the road that's the closest road to the subject property, is hatched green area, and that hatched green area contains Little Piney Branch. Hatched green area is a term in the MRA Green Space Agreement, which I included in your packet. During the public comment at the beginning of this meeting, I passed out the order of acceptance, just to make sure that that was complete. So Mr. Higgins' request is for the board to allow him to utilize an access easement in accordance with section 602 of the Montreat zoning ordinance to access the subject property from Harmony Road Lane. It switches between road and lane as you move on. Just as a note, this access easement would not be approved tonight. But Mr. Higgins is asking for direction from the board as to whether that would be an option he could proceed with. So just to be clear on that. So the Montreat General Ordinance, Chapter M, Section 3, could you go to the next slide? Slide after that. Okay, so the Montreat General Ordinance, Section 4, not 3, extensions of public utilities and streets, private extensions of public streets. That first bullet, the town does not allow property owners to construct driveways in unopened public rights of way. So this requirement from the Montreat General Ordinance may prevent Mr. Higgins from utilizing that access easement provision because it crosses hatched green area rather than solid colored areas that are defined in the MRA Green Space Agreement as dedicated reserved rights of way. So given this issue, the path that was outlined by Susan Taylor Rash, town attorney, to me was to have the Board of Commissioners decide whether this particular provision was triggered by the easement crossing the hatched green area. In other words, is this hatched green area considered unopened public right of way?
Kayla,
Yes.
you and I talked about this afternoon, but I still didn't understand it. Could you define unopened public right of way?
Sure. So unopened public right of way is not defined in the general ordinance, but right of way is. And you'll forgive me, I don't have the definition of right of way in front of me. But essentially it's an area of land that's reserved for a dedicated purpose, street or utility.
But my point, Tom, is, and I told Kayla this, and I'll tell the commission, the decision on whether this is unopened public right of way, I'm not sure how good a term that is not a legislative decision for this council. It's a matter of fact and law. It's that we need to get a legal determination if we feel we need one. Personally, and again, I think we need to defer consideration of what this is, but it's clear to me after reading the offer of dedication and now taking a look at the resolution that there is no existing public right of way. That's an area that was dedicated and accepted as recreation and green space.
Go back one slide. I have that definition up there.
With the proviso that, and I told Kayla, she's done a great job with this. She really has, but it's like a loss of a real property law school exam question from hell. It's really difficult, but what it looks like is it's an open space for dedication and recreation with the proviso that if at some point in time the town deems it appropriate and reasonably necessary to take a portion of it and create a public right of way for streets, bridges, or utilities, that the town at that point in time can in the future do that. Town has never done that. So right now, there's no right of way here. It's not an unopened right of way. There's no right of way.
Commissioner Blake, can I just pause you for one
Sure.
second? So the town did not allow an access easement in this particular area, but there is an area off of John Knox Road. If we could go to slide 8. Yeah, so in that lower right-hand image, if you guys see the hatched green area that has an L on it, so it's the one on the left. In 1987, the town did grant an access easement for a driveway on that lot. And that was through hatched green area. Now, unfortunately, I have the minutes from that board meeting, but it doesn't go into whether or not this same process that was recommended to me is what they used at the time. But I do just want to note, this was done in one other area of hatched
Right.
green area.
No, I understand. I understand. And that's great, but they didn't create a public street there, right?
No.
Or did they?
No.
Okay.
No, that hatched green area is still hatched green area. It just has a driveway easement for lots 29 and 28.
It was an easement, okay.
Yeah.
My only point is that that's a private easement. What we're talking about is whether this is a public right of way right now that's not open. That's the issue.
That's the
that's the
first
first issue.
part.
And what I'm
Yeah.
saying is, it's not a legislative question. It's an issue of fact and law. And second, looking at it, it's fairly clear to me from the facts, although we certainly bounce it off our city attorney, that there's no existing right of way. It's not a right of way. We could create a right of way there if we wanted to. If upon the finding of reasonable necessity. Uh,
What's the implication of that to our decision making regarding if it is a right of way or green space?
Well, if it's a right of way, what he would like, the homeowner resident would like an easement.
I don't believe he's the homeowner or the resident. Is Mr. Higgins here? Okay,
Okay.
I'm sorry. I tell the surveyor to go ahead and do the legal description in a future meeting. I would close the deal and with Matt back here, we get that done. And at a future meeting, I present you the legal description for the easement. So what I'm needing is I can't close the deal unless I have some assurances that I got a piece of property that's worth something. Otherwise, it's not worth anything. And so that's where I'm at. I'm kind of in an awkward position. And as you probably know, surveyors are backed up forever. And I had a conversation today and thinking maybe December they'd be able to get something written that, I can bring to you guys and you can, because otherwise, we don't know where this easement would be, but that's what I'm trying to go for. But I need some kind of direction or some kind of, I guess the better word would be assurances that you're not going to slap me in the face and 2 months from now and say, I'm sorry. And then I bought a piece of property that's worthless. And we can close the deal.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
You get it?
Yeah, Shayla, what's gonna happen if a lot on either side of him sells? Are we gonna have to do another right of way?
so it's not a right of way. If you
It's
were.
an easement, I
it's an
understand.
accent easement,
Do we have to do easements on that whole plot,
the,
all the way up?
no, so this access easement would just be for the subject property. So
Understand.
this
What if the
same
next,
issue,
what if the next lot sells?
it may come up again.
So we'll have to
Now-
have multiple easements across that same green space.
Now, I did recommend, so the MRA owns the lots on either side. And those big, the one that says 48851 and the one that says 0351. I recommended to Mr. Higgins to contact the MRA to see if there was some way they could work out maybe building an actual road out there. Because obviously for one person to build an extension of Harmony Lane, it would be, really, really costly. So I recommended that he reach out to them to see if there was the possibility of some sort of partnership to construct a road that would allow access to that entire area. Because yes, that same issue will come up.
Let me just say that notwithstanding the private easement that was granted back in 87, I don't believe that we have frankly, the authority under the offer of dedication and that we have and we're bound by. I personally don't think we have the authority to give a driveway easement. We certainly do have the authority to create a public right of way over which somebody can build, but a private easement, it doesn't say driveway. It says we can put a street there. Not to say we can allow somebody else to build a driveway. But I mean, we can solve the access, but it goes right back to what the mayor's situation is. It's hard to deal with one lot in the when we've got all those other lots, we need to sort of have a global solution to address the entire area.
Kayla, how much more study does this require?
Well, I mean, it depends what direction the commissioners.
What kind of direction do you want us to give you? To go ahead and study it and see what solution we can come up with?
Well, I mean,
What?
the solutions are outlined in the zoning ordinance and the general ordinance. Either he can get an access easement, all of these would be approved by the board. So either an access easement, a private extension of Harmony Lane, or a public extension of Harmony Lane. And the reason that the discussion about whether or not this is considered unopened right of way came up was because of what section 4, chapter M, section 4 in the Montreat General Ordinance says, that you cannot build a private driveway in unopened public right of way, which would prevent even the access, which would prevent just the access easement option from being on the table.
So we could do the access easement because it's not an unopened right of way, but we would need the consent of the MRA because we don't have the authority under the agreement. But it could be done.
And,
It's
and that's kind of where I look at it from a board standpoint. Obviously, I want us to do what's legally right. Obviously, I want us to do things that are not a huge burden financially for us to get a road put in there. But yet I think if, and we know Montreat's very unique in what's plotted and this and that, but I'm thinking if there's a piece of land out there that's plotted a lot for a house and someone's looking to buy it, I think we need to do what we can to see if we can get to that point where someone can build if at all possible.
Now,
And
Commissioner Blake, I do just want to say really quickly, I did email Richard Dubose with the MRA about this, and he did tentatively say that they'd be amenable to us crossing that hatched green area.
I
So-
think they would.
Yeah, just to note that.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's great. I'm glad you did, Kayla. That's terrific. And again, Kayla's done a great job. This is a can of worms from a technical standpoint.
Do I have a motion that has a solution to it?
Now,
That's
can
what
I
I
ask a
need.
question?
Sure.
Did MRA own the property and that's who you're buying it from, or does somebody else own that lot?
It's a different private individual.
Well,
But
when.
they probably
when
did at
this-
one point.
When
They-
this
they
green,
probably did.
I'm sorry,
They probably did at one point.
when this green space was laid out,
Mhm.
I guess they weren't thinking that they're cutting off this lot from access. I thought it was against the law to sell a piece of property
not-
that's landlocked.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that happened. It was long before I was born.
But yeah, long before you were born, but I think we have an obligation to get this lot buildable. Somebody has a worthless lot right now.
Matt, do you have some input?
I looked at the history of the sales of this lot, and if I'm not mistaken, and I have to go back and look, but I think it was first sold in 1901 or maybe 1907. It was a long time ago. And the MRA may have owned it again in the interim. I'm not sure of that. I don't think so. But it's also actually a Nisbet Lane address with the county, for whatever that's worth. That I think that shows Nisbet Lane coming on out above North Carolina that doesn't actually come out. So it's that's probably an unopened something. But the only way, it looks like the only practical way, and it is a practical way to access this lot is through the green space there that MRA owns, but the town controls, from my understanding. I talked with the MRA about this and they felt like it was a town decision.
You know, shifting, passing the buck. Where'd
They-
MRA go?
They said it was a town decision based on the green space agreement that already outlined everything, but I know this isn't cut and dry.
Okay, thanks, Matt.
I don't know what kind of a motion we make, but either within that motion or a separate motion, I would hope that we could give Mr. Higgins that that stamp of assurance that we are working diligently to make this happen. Because as several of you have said, it's just unconscionable that we would have 3 lots like that that don't have access.
And I think getting him a private easement is probably the best way to go. It doesn't obligate if we extended the right of way, first he'd have to spend a lot of money to make it a public street. And then we'd have to take over the maintenance responsibility.
You want to
And-
make that a motion?
I would I would be challenged, but I would move that counties, that city staff work with interested commissioners and others to solve this problem and such that we get the MRA's agreement to establish a private right of way for this landowner that allows him to build a home there under our zoning code. Recognizing that it is my opinion, but we'll confirm that this is currently not an open public right of way, but rather in fact, a green space and recreation area, which at some point could become right of way, but right now, which is not. And therefore, under the city code, a private easement is permissible.
Kaylee, you're busting at the seams to say something. What is it?
So yeah, I want to just slow down for like 1 second. So again, going back to what, the crux of the conversation that I had with, Susan was that whether this provision to prevent a, private driveway in this area was triggered in the general ordinance, which again says you can't have a private, the town will not allow a private a private driveway in unopened public right of way. So I guess what I want first is direction as to whether we've made a decision about that or whether I
Well,
need to get.
we can't make a decision on that. That's not a legislative decision. It's a question of law and fact.
Right.
Okay? We can establish those facts and I'll talk it over with Susan, but we can't decide.
Sure.
It is what it is. My point is, I have 40 plus years of practicing real property law. I'm 99.99% sure that although this is one strange chameleon, it's right now not a public right of way of any sort, opened or unopened.
So is this something that the commissioners want me to get additional information on, or are we okay with?
I would think you'd need additional information,
okay with that?
but I want to assure Mr. Higgins that what I hear from this group is that we want to do everything that we possibly can to help you get access to your property. I can't guarantee it, but we're working hard on it, okay?
Yeah, 'cause
Understand.
That would trigger a core permit. I mean, it would trigger right now, if he just builds a driveway, it's a nationwide permit. It would trigger an individual permit. It'd be a-
Okay. 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 Okay.
Mayor, Commissioners, if I could weigh in just for consideration, what I think I'm hearing is that the commissioners are realizing or accepting that that is not a dedicated right of way or an unopened dedicated right of way. If I'm hearing that correctly and taking Commissioner Blake's comments into consideration, what I would suggest, if the commissioners are in total agreement that that is a green space and that we recognize that driveway easements are allowed in the green space, while also being concerned with the MRA's position on this green space, I would suggest that the commissioners look at, in the essence of time from Mr. Higgins, that we recognize it's a green space. We will allow a driveway easement to his property, subject to approval from the MRA. And
Was that a motion?
I would,
I know
if I were
you
on the
can't.
commission, that's the motion I would make, but I'm not a commissioner, but I think that all of this we're all on the same page, if I'm hearing correctly. And we just need that verification from the MRA in writing so that town staff and Mr. Higgins could move forward or change direction.
You know, I would make that motion. I'd certainly, the easement would be subject to approval because the creek's there. I think we need to be, it's got to be a carefully drafted easement that we review. It just can't be whatever. It needs to be carefully drafted. We also need a title report assuring us that we do in fact have title to the property and can grant the easement with the MRA's approval. Again, don't want to not have a title report and do something and find out, get in a lawsuit about it later. So all we've got is a couple of pieces of paper from our files. We don't have a title report that's been furnished us. The landowner's got to get a title report ultimately anyway, and hopefully he, you know, so it's something we'll need to have. Frankly, we'll need to ask you to pay for it, but we'll need to know we own the property. You'll need to know it too in order to get your loan to build the house and buy the lot.
Kayla, can you handle that?
Okay, so I just want to make sure I'm fully understanding everything clearly. So we are okay tentatively allowing an access easement subject to its full review and approval from the MRA and a title report furnished by Mr. Higgins. Is there
Yeah, and
anything
he'll
else?
get that once he gets his, you know, when he gets his survey, you know, he'll need that to be certified, but with all those protections, yes.
And is there anything else? Because when Mr. Higgins comes back before the board, I want to make sure he has all his documents. So in addition to the ones we discussed tonight, he'll also have an easement agreement, a draft easement agreement, and a meets and bounds, either meets and bounds survey or an actual platted survey showing where the access easement will be. And that will be what the board will approve. So I want to make sure he has everything he needs when he comes back.
Okay,
Okay?
good deal. Thank you.
Mr. Higgins, we want you to build a really big house and pay big taxes.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm gonna let you get with Kayla on that. This is not a, this is Kayla, this is a business meeting. Kayla works for us. She presents us with the information. We hash it out. Your opportunity to speak is going to be in a public comment section here in just a few minutes. If you want to say something then.
Okay, is there anything else on this that you guys need from me on this subject? Especially specifically, Commissioner Blake, regarding your concerns about the determination of the use of the hatched green area. I just want to make sure that you guys don't need me to come back and give additional information.
I think I'm good, but if I do need more information, you'll hear from me. I
Okay.
can't think of it right now.
Sounds good. And thank you for bringing your concerns to me. All right, Kayla, that's all I got. Thanks, guys.
Item D on the agenda is consideration of approving
Mr.
resolution.
Mayor,
Yes,
my notes, we have a motion, but I don't know if we've got a second and a vote on it.
oh, okay. I have a second now. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. See, if Angie's not here, you got to keep me straight. Consideration of approving resolution recommending the appointment of a review officer for the town of Monterey. Do we have a motion? And that would be Kayla, right?
Yes.
Okay. Have a motion, have a second,
Second. Oh,
have multiple seconds. Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
aye.
Ayes carry. I didn't hear any opposition, did I? Now, public comment. If you want to say something for about 2 or 3 minutes, Mr. Higgins, come up to the microphone. And I don't mean to be ugly, but North Carolina law sort of stipulates what we can and can't do. If we allow questions from the audience, it becomes a debate between the commissioners and the audience
I get you.
rather than them discussing the business they have to discuss. Thank you.
Okay, I'm, like I said a moment ago, this is all new territory for me and I'm just trying to figure it all out. Pardon me? Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Gary Higgins. I actually live in Idaho, Bonners Ferry, Idaho. And me and my wife want to move here. My son lives in Montreat with the grandchildren, and we're in northern Idaho, with winters are horrendous, and she's over that. Your winters here are like Hawaii compared to where we live. So, so anyway, aside from all that, we found this property, and it's real. My wife and I really love it, and we want to move forward with it and do something. I just want to, but you can see my position where everything's up in the air. What do you want to? So that's where I'm at, and I just hope this works out for us. I was going to make one quick comment. I'll shut up. The driveway that we're talking about, see, that's just pretty simple. I talked to the Corps, talked to DQ, and I can physically doing it, if we had your approval and blessings. But the road would be another deal, because we get into the engineering, the Army Corps would be totally involved and all this other stuff, and it would take years. And quite frankly, I'm 70 years old. I don't want to wait years, so, and that's where I'm coming from with that. And I respect you guys got to do what you got to do, but that's just basically all I have to say. Thank you.
We're going to try to get you your easement. No road to build.
We got to have something to do, so we want to come up and watch that house being built. Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Stephen Lynch I'm a member of Mount Mitchell Bear Club. I just have a question about the ordinance.
You'll have to ask it after the meeting. We don't do questions and answers now that we're in a session. So if you want to ask a question about the bear ordinance, you might want to get with Mason after the meeting.
All right.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, Commissioner Communications.
I just want to remind everyone about the town forum that is going to occur on Monday night at 6:30 in the same room, where we will talk about the bear ordinances that were passed tonight, as well as some of the other things that have happened, and including the rights and responsibilities of property owners.
I'll remind you that the Presbyterian Heritage Center has a distinguished lecturer this Saturday night, and they've advertised it a lot, so I'm sure everybody's heard about it, but do come.
Yeah, speaker is absolutely terrific. Just
And his grandfather is Andy Holt,
Andy Holt,
who
one of the best
signed our
presidents of the
University of Tennessee diplomas.
Kent,
Well, just as far as note, I'm sure everybody's aware that the college is back in town with a few more students and parking issues, but the good news is the sports are going strong. So I'd like the community to come visit any of the sports events and stay away from that cold weather.
anyone else?
I'd just like to say it's great to have the college students back in Montreat. It's wonderful to see them as I drive down Appalachian every morning. It's just really good. It's wonderful to have them here.
Anyone else? Ben, you have to say?
Mayor, if I could, I'd like to give a shout out to the town's police department and public works department. With Hurricane Ian being a threat to Western North Carolina last week or 2 weeks ago, that we were subject to a lot of flooding, wind damage. Their police department and public works department worked together, not only with each other, but the surrounding agencies. Fortunately, we were spared any type of rain damage, wind damage, but our departments and their personnel were prepared. They had done preventive maintenance prior to the storm coming in. And I just want to give a shout out. And I know each one of you appreciate those departments as well as our citizens. Thank you, gentlemen.
Absolutely. Cleaned up the creek. That's the way to do it. And the rain went other way. And Chief, what'd you do? Bring in extra donuts or what? Okay. Any other commissioners' comments? Okay, dates to remember: the town forum on Monday, October 17 at 6:30 here in the town hall. Bridge Aesthetics Committee meeting is Tuesday, October the 18th, 2 p.m. here in town hall. Board of Adjustment member training Wednesday, October the 19th from 5 to 6:30 p.m. at town hall. Tree board Tuesday, October the 25th, 9:30 a.m. town hall. Board of Adjustment Thursday, October the 27th, 5 p.m. town hall. Land Care Wednesday, November 2nd, 9 a.m. at town hall. November Town Council meeting Thursday, November the 10th, which I will be absent. Mayor Pro Tem. On the 10th at 7 PM in Town Hall. The forum begins at 6:30. Town offices will be closed on the 24th and 25th in observance of Thanksgiving. And the tree board will meet Tuesday, November the 28th at 9:30 AM in the Town Hall. And that's all I've got. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn into closed session. Have a motion from Mayor Pro Tem Widmer that we go into closed session. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second, Commissioner Alexander. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
You folks can remain here and wait for us to get out. I don't know how long it's going to take, but we'll be in the boardroom.